a very warm welcome to this another webinar. I hope हम सब लोग बिल्कुल alive है इस webinar के लिए, and we all are very excited. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all on this today's Close Circle webinar, which is an initiative by the founder of Chronicle Advisors, CS Abhinav Agarwal. So let's take a moment to welcome the person behind this webinar. Congratulations, Abhinav sir, for conducting this another successful webinar.
Thank you, Radhika. I believe the congratulations should be given to all and each and every participant who have joined us since last 2 years. I believe we have started with one of our very eminent speaker, Rakesh sir, on ESG, right? And then this caravan has kept on going, and very often we are coming with different topics. So today is one of that topic. Today it's on BIS, and we have Manju ma'am with us, and she is an expert. I will say she is an expert of regulatory compliances, and BIS is one of that. Right. So I'm looking forward to hear from Manju ma'am today, and let's have that enriching and knowledgeable experience today.
Exactly. So thank you so much, sir. I heartily welcome you all. So continuing with our today's webinar is all about BIS compliances, which refers to Bureau of Indian Standards, which ensure that each and every product that has been sold in India meets specific quality requirements. And to know more about this, today we have our EXIM specialist and trade regulatory specialist, CS Manju Laur. So let me introduce a bit about Manju ma'am. She is an EXIM and trade regulatory specialist with over 15 years of professional experience. She advises the clients on complex regulatory frameworks involving BIS certifications, DGFT authorizations, FEMA compliances, and all. Her practice integrates AI enabled compliance systems and works closely with import driven and highly regulated sector businesses to build AI assisted, audit ready, and operationally secure trade compliance frameworks. Hello, ma'am. On behalf of the entire Chronicle team, I heartily welcome you all to share the knowledge on BS compliances with us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you guys are having me, and I'm hoping that the audience do get some meaningful, insight about the certificate. So we shall begin. Let me just share my screen.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, please.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we can take questions in between the sections. So first, we will have an introduction about what the license is about, what typically does it means, and then we will have a section on the types of licenses that are required, what are the devices on, or what are the instruments, or what are the things on which it is applicable, and then we will look at the other thing related to the license. So now to begin with, see, BIS is relatively a newer law in the, looking at the history of the law. And but the most important part that why it is required or something like this is because to standardize the kind of products that are being manufactured in India, so that the consumer is, whenever they are consuming anything, that the product is above that standard, so that the substandard products are not being manufactured or being consumed in the market. So this is the idea behind the BIS. So typically, what is BIS? The Bureau of Indian Standard is a national standard body of India, established under the Bureau of Indian Standards Act 2016. So I mentioned that it's a relatively a newer law. So it was previously also there, but it got consolidated and formed and implemented in 2016 to formulate Indian standards and administer conformity assessment and certification schemes for product and services. So it not only standardizes the product which are being manufactured, to extent it also comes to kind of a services also that are being given to the consumer. BIS plays a vital role in strengthening Indian quality infrastructure by promoting standardization, which I mentioned, that, and consumer protection and regulatory compliances. So the question here comes that why is standardization so important? So let me give you a small example that a very common example of BIS is the pressure cookers that we use at our homes. Earlier, they were not standardized. So everybody was manufacturing pressure cookers, and we all understand that in a pressure cooker, the pressure goes to a certain level, and then the food item inside the pressure cookers get cooked. So this was when you put it on your stove, so it becomes like if it is not up to a standard, or it is not up to a mark, or the quality of the aluminium, the rubber, the seal is not as per the mark, the cookers can get burst at any given point of time. So that became, so we in the news is also, it used to come that, be aware that only buy the ISI mark pressure cooker because it is dangerous. So this is a very common example which I'm trying to tell you, so that you understand the importance of having the standardized products. Similarly for electronics, if the electric circuit, the wirings are not as per standards, you can have short circuits in your house, you can have fires in your house. So that is why the standardization to protect the consumers and to have a regulatory compliance was very much required in India, because India was from the underdeveloped nation, it was becoming a developed nation. So so already the developed nations were pushing uh, the products which were not being which were not being accepted in their country. They were pushed to underdeveloped or developing economies. So India wanted to stop this kind of behavior in imports. So they got in standardization for different kind of products. So there are different varieties of like it is applicable on paints, it is applicable on electronics, so on and so forth. We will see in our PPT today that where all are these applicable. So the core function which comes for this is standardization, which we've already understood, that each and every step of making any product, be it a small product, something small as a pressure cooker, or be it as a machine, as huge machines that is used for medical equipments, or something which is the power supply, or something as important as putting the ingredients right quantity in the each packaging product. So those kind of machines are also requiring standardization. So product certification, standardization, we understand that it should not be below a benchmark. Product certification means that the product should be certified so that the consumer is aware that because it is up to the consumer to either consume a standardized product or a non-standardized product, because we understand if the standardization and regulatory compliances are there, then the price of the that product would be little higher than the non-standardized product. But the government wants the consumers to be aware that what they are opting for. Then conformity with assessments, like so the department has made different bylaws, as we all understand, we all are legal people, most of us. So we understand that there are bylaws for each processes, which helps the manufacturer to understand that what is the expectation of the regulatory person, and what is the expectation, what is the expected outcome of the consumers, so that once he manufacture those kind of products, they would be accepted in the market. So the manufacturer or the importer has to be aware about these kind of things. Then the hallmarking. Hallmarking is something which we all have seen in our daily lives. We've seen our parents looking at the jewelries being hallmark or not hallmark, because that was a very unregulated sector to a very large period of time. So that hallmarking is also very important. And then the consumer protection. Consumer protection becomes important because something as small as a pressure cooker in the house, or a power circuit, or even the paints which are being used in your house, or the washing machines, or some any other electronic, the consumers were not even aware of their own rights, that they should at any given point of time should not be delivered any product which is below a standard and being regulated. So there was an awareness through this law which was spread to the consumers that you have to have more than this standard of product at your service. So this whole BIS process, when it came, and the industry was looking at a as a added compliance, because the sectors were unregulated. Similarly, now the recent, the implication of BIS is coming for is the manufacturing of furnitures. So furniture, we all understand it's a highly unregulated market, and it is being manufactured at every nook and corner of the cities and all this. So the BIS is trying to standardize that also, and it is going to get implemented from this August and September, which will ensure that as something like a ply, that the ply which we use, you already see that those pliers are also coming with an ISI mark. Most of the pliers which we buy are coming with ISI mark. But then there are pliers which are being bought are not having ISI marks. So what is the difference? It is the difference in the quality, the durability, the commitment of whatever they're saying that they're going to run this number of years. Those products will run that number of years if they are having that certificate. So the objective of having this whole BIS implemented in our country, which is very good for our country, is to ensure quality, safety, and reliability of the products while facilitating fair trade and promoting compliance with Indian standards. So now we have to understand that while everybody wants the quality, but the consumer is not aware in a lot of the scenarios that what is the appropriate standard of quality that should be there. So where this is how the BIS comes and plays a role in helping the consumer understand the standards which should be there in the market, and the manufacturers and importers understand that what is this applicable standard that the consumers will accept in the market. So all the developed nations do have their own BIS standards, and India is at par with all those global standards, be it Singapore, be it US, be it Europe. So our standards are matching with those acceptable standards there. So we see this as as a level playing field for all the manufacturers across the globes also, that now they can start selling it in India, the same quality of products which they were selling all across the world, and they will get the required price also, because the consumer has also become aware. So it goes both hand in hand for the manufacturer also and for the consumers also. So now moving on to the next slide. Now, before I have in this slide, I have at the left hand side, I have put all these marks for you all to just have a look, and I am 100% sure most of you must have seen at least 3 or 4 of these marks on the daily usage products that you're using, your laptops, your electronic items, be your mouse, be your phones, be your speakers, be your lights, bulbs. So I just wanted to make you understand by these logos. We'll be doing this in detail in the coming slides so that we understand that what exactly are we looking at. Now we will look at the legal framework of the what governs BIS. So BIS regulatory regime is founded on a comprehensive strategy framework that governs standardization, conformity assessment, and product certification in India. Till here we understand. The BIS was established under the Bureau of Indian Standards Act 2016 and governed by the Bureau of Indian Standard Rules 2018. So we do understand that there is an act, and then there are different standards, and then there are regulations attached to that act. So similarly, the BIS also has an act which was established in 2016. Then the rules came effective in 2018. And then in addition to these rules, BIS also operate on several regulations. And these regulations are constitution and functioning of BIS, because the BIS itself has to operate from, and the regulations have to change from time to time because it is present in an evolving market. So what is relevant today might not be that relevant in the next 6 months. If you look at electronics, might not be relevant in 2 years if you look at bigger machines. So this is how with every shift in product, the uh, the relatability of the law and the product changes. So the BIS has to keep these standards updated and up to the mark. Then comes Bureau of Indian Standards, Conformity Assessment Regulations. Then Bureau of Indian Standards, Hallmark Regulations. Just a moment. And then comes the Bureau of Indian Standard Advisory Committee Regulation 2018. So mostly the law came into the picture 2016, and then by 2018, most of the law was being implemented in India. Now, what regularly comes from the BIS departments are the standards. There are different standards for each product, and these standards are, we will see in the later slides that some of them are compulsory to be adopted and some of them are voluntary to be adopted. So the BIS had made their standards for approximately about 2,000 to 3,000 products, and then
Ma'am,
Anjali, I believe the PPT is not
uh,
working. You could just check it once, please.
yes.
just is it visible now?
It's visible. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So now we will move on
It's not
to.
visible again.
अभी भी हाँ,
Maybe your desktop is
it's
showing.
still not visible. It's your डेस्क अभी आपका डेस्कटॉप का स्क्रीन दिख रहा है.
Oh, I was trying to move it to the same screen so that if the fluctuation goes, it doesn't go anywhere. Now is it? Is it?
No, ma'am.
Now is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Now is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Please continue.
Okay. So moving on, anybody who had any questions since we've already paused for something, or they want to add on something to this?
Anyone, if anyone want to ask any question, they can unmute or themselves and they can ask also.
Okay, then we'll continue because you just begun. Regulatory objectives. Establish the Indian standards for product and processes, ensure quality, safety, and consumer protection. Mandatory certificate for notified products. This is what I was talking about. That mandatory certificate for certification for notified product. This means that the bureau has made a lot of standards. Notified means that they are compulsory for the manufacturer or the importer to adopt. And there are many companies which do understand that that in the coming time, each and every product which is either being imported or being manufactured would have a standardization. So they have started doing this on their own and adopting to the standards which are given by the department. Now comes regulate the manufacturer, importer, storage, distribution, sale, and use of goods covered under QCOs. So we'll understand QCOs in the next slide. So this means it does not only regulate the product at the stage of manufacturing, but it also regulate the product at the stage of storage, distribution, sale, because in many of the products, storage, distribution, and sales also plays a very vital role in maintaining the standard of the product. So this is why these are also included here. Moving on to the next slide, quality control orders. Quality control orders are statutory notifications issued by the government under the Section 16 of the Bureau of Standard Acts 2016, making compliance with specified Indian standards mandatory for the notified product. This means the product has already been notified, but they have been mandated. So earlier also I made you understand that there are standards, and then these standards are notified and made mandatory, in which you have to obtain the approval of the department before manufacturing or importing this product. What is the key feature of this QCOs? Mandatory conformity with the applicable Indian standard. This means that those products cannot be sold in India until unless they are abiding by those Indian standards. Products covered under a QCO cannot be manufactured, imported, stored, distributed, sold, offered for sale without the prescribed BIS standard. So here we understand the whole chain of the product from being manufactured to being received to the consumer is being regulated by the standards. The standards are typically a very detailed bylaws of the product where they mention what should be the process of manufacturing, what should be the raw materials used. I'm just giving you a generic view. It may or may not apply to all the standards, but in a generic view, overview, I'm telling you that they go as deep as the raw materials used, the kind of standard of the raw material used, the kind of testing equipments used, the standard of testing equipment used, and then the the process, how long can it be kept, what could be the shelf life of from the product being into the factory and being out. So all these, the whole cumbersome process of manufacturing in and whole is being governed by these standard, so that the product which is delivered in the end is of that given standard. Product covered under this. Okay, QCOs are issued by the concerned ministries and departments for products falling within their respective sectors. So we do understand we have a steel ministry, we have, other similar ministries. So all the ministries like FSI, like all, cotton, we have, so we have all different electronics. So we have different ministries. So what the Bureau of Indian Standard does is they take the learnings from these different ministries which are having expertise in their own domain, and based on their expertise they make the standards. So it's a cumbersome process of making that standard and implementing it. It is not that they do not have the insight of what the processes are being implemented, and the uh, industry in a whole is also, welcomed by the department to give their views, to have their says before implementing or making any standards mandatory. The industry is given a time frame of approximately a year or so, and sometimes if the industry is not ready based on certain representations made by the industry, they also, give another 6 months grace period for implementing those standards, applicable to both domestic manufacturer and foreign manufacturer exporting products to India. So the main part here is that the consumers in India should get the standard product. So the product can come either from India. If it is coming from India, then it is being, all those laws will be applicable. And if it is coming from foreign also, then also the department is overlooking the whole process. They have made a guideline how the steps will be followed, and then only that product from foreign would be allowed to be imported and sold in India. So this was a very bold step from the Indian government, and this made the world aware that now no substandard products will any be longer accepted in Indian market. Non-compliance may attract regulatory actions, which we all understand. This is how the law works mostly in our country, including prohibition of sale if you have made any product which does not meet the regulatory this standard, because the departments not only check the compliance at the time of manufacturing or before giving the license, they also do a regular interval checks of the factories and of the products from the market, from anywhere available to the consumers, and they might impose heavy penalties and might seize the uh, whole stock or the whole batch. So it is a very difficult situation for manufacturer if something like this happens, because it'll incur heavy losses for them. So we have to be very compliant with this law from the start to the end, and then on the regular basis. What is the regulatory objective? We all have understood that there should be a level playing field for domestic and imported goods, because earlier there was a notion uh, across the consumers in India that imported products are better. And to a larger extent, this was correct also, because the government did not had any barriers to stop the substandard product being coming to India. So with the implementation of this law, if any domestic manufacturer is making a better product than the foreign manufacturer and meeting the standard, then that product will circulate more in the economy and to the consumer. So this has given a fair chance to the Indian manufacturers to make the products and enjoy the benefit of our Indian market, and not being crushed by the foreign market. So what are the generic products which are, I've already told you, something as important as a pressure cooker, as in helmet, which are safety gears. We've seen a lot of times those safety harnesses also are being standardized. So these kind of things like LED lights, toys. Toys also, I think it has been a year or so, the toys standard has been notified. And earlier, 2 years back or something, we could see there was a death of toys, but all those toys which were there in India were not, they were not kids friendly. Kids friendly isn't as in they were not safe for the child to be used. So once this standard has come in place now, from past 6 months or a year, we have seen a shift in the quality of toys also which are being there in the Indian market. Then the LED's light, a very good example of LED's light is the same light you buy in India and the same light you buy in London. Your light will not last more than, I think, the same Diwali season, and the same light in London would last, I don't know how many of their Christmas and New Year celebration. This is because the India was accepting substandards LED lights and the lights which were being exported to the developed nations like London and US. They were of a better quality. So when we see, the price also, I do understand from this point that the price also plays an important role. But what about those consumers who are ready to pay that price and they do not have that kind of products available in the market? So it becomes a little difficult for them to consume standardized product. So by the implementing these standards, those kind of problems got evaded. Mobile phone, the batteries were bursting, they were bursting middleware in the airlines and something like this. So refrigerators, air conditions, cement, steel products. So we do understand in that in daily usage life, we are using these products and the consumers are not aware that what is the minimum required standard that should be there to consume these products. So this is where the BIS plays a very important role. For us as professionals, we have to make the client or the manufacturer believe that these kind of things will not only enhance the quality of their product which they can give in India market, but they can also serve the foreign markets. The doors to foreign markets also opens for them, because the same standards are being accepted in Dubai, Singapore. Our standards are a little, they are at par with all the global standards. Or I'm telling you that the countries like Dubai are looking at our standards and adopting our standards for few of the products. Like, I'm very well aware of steel because we were doing a steel project. So they're adopting our standards, and it's not that uh, it'll harm the manufacturer in any way, or it'll add on to the cost, because any compliance always adds on to the cost at the beginning. But in the longer run, if we understand these, it becomes a win-win situation for the businessman. So this is where we play an important role in making the businessman understand the importance of the law. Now we will move on to the type of certifications the scheme has. If anybody has any questions, I would love to take on the first four slides that we have done till now, and then we move on to the types of licenses which are covered under this law.
Yes, ma'am. One question is there. It's from Harshit Seni. So, do there is any regulation or government has intention to regularize for the standard quantity of food items? MP Ravi Kishan raised query in Parliament for food items quantity and size ambiguity at restaurants and hotels.
Food has already been mostly and completely been regulated by FSI. FSI the department has, drastically grown in last 2 to 3 years, and they have gone to the depth of from the nutritious value of the product being mentioned on the package to the process which the manufacturers are being followed. So the food items are already being regulated by the FSI and not being covered under the BIS, because then there'll be dual compliances. So the thought behind BIS is not to overburden the manufacturers with compliances, but is to have the standardization of any product.
There's only one question, ma'am. That's it. We can proceed.
Okay. So now we'll move on to the, see, I have tried to make everything here in the one slide so that we get an bird's eye view of, what are the jargons being used in the industry which you're not understanding at all. So you can see scheme 1, scheme 2, scheme 3, scheme 4, scheme X. So I am sure most of you must have heard about something. The scheme X was in news since a long time, and was coming in multiple notifications of the government also. So we'll start from the first scheme 1, and then we'll move to scheme X. So we do understand that each product has a different requirement, so they cannot be a similar, same, or one process or one standard which governs each product. Like a paper is made different, an electronic is made different, a toy is made different. So we understand different categories of product like electronics, consumer goods, and this kind of things. And then we understand the regulatory requirements on these products. So that is why we have these 5 schemes in place for the purpose of differentiation on the basis of product type and the category. The most flagship product certification which is there of BIS is the ISI mark, which we have seen commonly IS जागो ग्राहक जागो ISI mark का ही helmet पहनो. Government has made so many of these ads making consumer aware that something as basic as an ISI mark also is something that they should look at before buying products like helmets, safety gears like helmets, or cooking wares in our houses. So ISI mark certification scheme, the flagship product certification scheme under which manufacturers are authorized to use the ISI standard marks upon demonstrating conformity with the applicable Indian standard. So what happens is, you go to the department, you tell them, sir, we are abided by the standard that you have put in place. The department gives you the certificate, and through that certificate you get a ISI number, and then you are eligible to use this, the first mark which you're talking about, scheme X, the ISI, the most common mark which we're seeing here, to be used on each and every product which is being manufactured. There cannot be any batch of the product which does not have this mark. If that is not there, then it will not be treated as a compliance on the part of the department. So not only obtaining the certificate is important, but making it compulsory for the product also to have this mark is important. On the either on the label, on the product, like on helmets, it is on the inside. On the you have seen it is engraved also on the pressure cookers, on the lids, and something like this. So wherever possible, for this also they have made different standards. If the product is made of this, the mark is going to be like this. It can be engraved. It can be, on you've seen on Coca-Cola bottles and all, glass bottles. You've seen the marked is little, it's not engraved. It is, embossed on the bottles. So why it is not engraved and embossed? Because of the standard which are there in this, because of the standard and because of the language which is mentioned in that standard. So here, like, you can't, on your computers, if you look at your laptops and all, if you see the backside of it, you will see the BIS mark. In scheme 2, compulsory registration scheme. This is the most common kind of certifications as far as electronics are concerned. A registration-based conformity scheme assessment mechanism primarily applicable to specified electronics and information technology products. So, what is the use of this mark? So, these marks are to be placed in a generic sense at a very visible place on your product. It cannot be so that I manufactured the product, and but when you open my laptop, inside the laptop there will be one chip on that chip. I put this mark. So the standard also tell you where you have to put, what should be the size of the mark, how it should be visible, so that the consumer is never deceived, not the department. So by telling you this, we are making. I'm just trying to tell you that, to the depth the department has thought about it, and trying to, make it, trying to make the implementation possible. So electronics, we have seen in last past decade that it has become a very important part of our day-to-day lives. When it has become so important, so it becomes very critical for for the government, for the department also to regulate this. So, like in India, we are used to buying the L1 product which are available in the market, whatever is the lowest available possible, whatever the lowest available price it is possible, we buy this. But the government is trying to make the consumer aware that, if you are buying those substandard products, you are, you know exposing yourself to any mishap that can happen, because electronics catch fires, they can burst, they can give you they can give you shocks, and they can be, used by elderly, they can be used by children. So we have to be very conscious as a consumer also, when we're buying these kind of products, to check these labels, to check these logos, are they in conformity with the standard, generic standards, are they in conformity or not. Okay, now we come to the scheme third, which is hallmark scheme. We have all seen our jewelries, like the jewelries have those, hallmarks inside them. There's a small mark if you look minutely on your jewelries, on gold, silver, artifacts, which identify the purity and fitness of the product. Now, in most of the gold shops, you have those, gold testing machines where you can go and put your gold and, you can check. But that's only for the bigger showrooms and something. But as for the second tier city, for the third tier city, how does the consumer make sure that the jewelry that they're buying is what the seller is telling them? Is it 18 carat, it is 21 carat, is it 22 carat, is it 24 carat? How will the consumer be aware? So this standard was always in place, but it has now been more regulated and made aware by the people that not to buy any of these products which do not have these markings. Because India is a very gold and, metal loving country, so that is why, and a lot of our savings or something goes into these kind of consumptions in actual gold and silver. So we should be make these department wanted the consumer to be fully satisfied about the product that they're being buying. So this is how it gets implemented. It's a very easy process to apply, approve, and get. Now we come to scheme 4, certificate of conformity, a scheme providing certification based on conformity assessment procedure as prescribed under BIS regulatory framework for notified product. This scheme 4 is for uh, some these are for larger organizations, and this we will not see in our day-to-day lives. These are basically for the government departments, government-based industries, which are on a very larger, higher scale. That how should they run, how should they operate, like for crude oils, for metal ores, or something like this. So this is not what we use in day-to-day lives. The first three which we went through, the one, scheme 2, and scheme 3, are which are being used in our day-to-day lives, and a consumer can see them in and around if they go into the market. Scheme 4 is like uh, it is very less because it is only for the some notified government departments or a very larger organizations or on and whole. Now comes the Scheme X, certification scheme for notified product, a specialized conformity assessment scheme applicable to product specifically notified by central government. It generally involves testing and surveillance requirement. So the Scheme X was had come in place, and it is for larger machines being used in manufacturing process. So this also the normal consumer on day-to-day basis doesn't require. This is for industry. These are for private industries on a larger scale basis, which are using huge machines, which are automation machines, which are being used by them. So this is a quick overview of the whole BIS uh, and the kind of products which they cover. Now we will go one by one on each of them and understand what exactly are the products covered under them and how exactly it happens. So the ISI mark, we understand the ISI mark scheme is the flagship scheme, and it is applicable to the standards. And what are the products it is are being applicable? It is applicable to broad range of electronic products, cement, steel, chemical, and consumer goods. Mostly these standards are being implemented, and there are very less which are on the voluntary basis, because these are widely used by the consumers, so they are mostly implemented. So how does one understand that the process of having it? So these products, uh, the BIS department operates at the headquarters in Delhi. Then it has departments in each states. Then it has laboratories in each of the states, districts, major cities. This is what the framework of the department looks like. Other than the department, then there are private players also, which are being licensed by the department for carrying on the testing process. Because the testing is such a cumbersome process in BIS, because it happens at the time of application, it happens at the time of the consumers, the products are in the market, it happens at the time when the application is ongoing. The department makes some raids, they procure those products, they give it to these testing. So the government, the testing labs were not sufficing uh, to the requirement of the testing process. So they have enabled the private players to go in place. So we have multiple labs. So now we understand that each product requires different standards. And so now we understand that same product cannot be tested in every lab. So there are specialized lab for specialized product. This means that you can only lab test electronics, you can only lab test cement, you can only lab test chemicals, because chemicals itself has so many range. Cement looks like only cement, but it has different grades, qualities, compositions, the kind of inputs they have, the kind of raw materials they have. Steel has approximately 1,000 plus grades of steels are available in India. So it is not what we as consumers or what we as professionals look at steel as one product. The department and they look at steel as a different categories and different ranges of the product. So it is required for testing, factory assessment, implementation of an effective quality control system. So I told you that the lab testing process, because it is so cumbersome and it is on a at an interval basis. That is why so many labs are required. Now the certified manufacturer authorized to fix ISI marked signifying compliance and quality assurance. So, as a consumer, if we see the mark, we are assured by the government that this product meets that standard and is abided by this. As a manufacturer, it gives us a level playing field in the uh, market to push our products. As a professionals, we understand that once we see the product, we should be able to gauge the like legal metrology. We understand legal metrology governs the rules of the labels. So one of the requirements of this law is to have this marks on the products, which as a compliance officer of the company or the regulator, we have to ensure that each batch has this. And you cannot have it like if somebody comes and asks me कि मैं मैम मेरे दो प्रोडक्ट में जो मेरा उसका लेबल है वो पीले रंग का है और मेरे को ये काला मार्क उस पे ना, it is not suiting my aesthetics of the product label. So sir, you have to use the mark as it is. So you cannot change the color, you cannot change you cannot change anything in this mark. You cannot change the white background. You can't make it blue on white, white on blue, blue on black. You can't do that. The only thing which you can do is the size. You can either make it small, you can make it big, but that is also in conformity of the size of your product. It is not that your product is this big and you put a ISI mark of this big. And if your product is this big, you put it like this. So it has to be in proportion to the product that you're doing. So it should not cover all the space, but it should be visible to the eyes of the consumer. So this is a very important part. I think I forgot to tell you in the first slide that you cannot change the color, tone, structure of the marks, which is very important from the compliance viewpoint. Now we would have what kind of products are covered, because how usually the process happens when we are applying a BIS. So usually clients come or a consumer comes or a manufacturer comes to us and say, sir, I am manufacturing like shoes. I manufacture shoes. So in what standard do I fall? So there are different standards. We go to the BIS website, we check the standards, we tell them the standards. So we have to understand that different categories of product, like electronics we understand, household products we understand, So what kind of mark would be used on what kind of product? A generic idea we should have. So electronic switches, socket outlets, electronic irons, water heaters, PVC cables, steel, plywood, safety glasses. Safety glasses also you have seen in your cars. If you see very closely on the cars, if you just lift up, just close your car's windows, you will see that ISI mark there. Why? Because if somebody attacks the car, so it should earlier what was happening, was getting shattered. So once the glass gets shattered, so a lot of the time the person who was inside the cars, those glass pieces were getting inside the person's body at the time of the accident or something like this. So now, after the standardization, mostly, I'm saying mostly the car glasses do not shatter. They just they do not shatter into pieces. They just shatter. So this is the importance of the standardization in our day-to-day lives. So in the cars, what they do is they put a small I'm not very sure, but I think they put a film between the glass so that the pieces do not leave that film from either side, and they keep sticking to the glass, even if some object has come and stuck on the glass. Like household items, we have all understood gas stoves, packaged drinking water is also ISI marked. Day to day, what we're consuming. Industrial products like LPG, gas cylinders, walls. Walls are so important because there can be a lot of leakage in the walls. Pipe fitting, automotive tires. Tires are also ISI marked. Chemicals like soda, hydrochloric acid, polyethylene, material in industrial chemicals. Why the standard is required? Because these chemicals remains chemical, but their property to strengthen the usage depends upon you know the amount or the grade of the quality of the chemicals they are used. That is why the standardization of chemicals has also become important. Now we will move on to the next standard. Next, this compulsory registration scheme. This is the most common scheme for IT and electronic products, as you've already seen. This is the mark that we will do. This that you're seeing here, this here you will get a specific number for your product, for your license. And here also you will have a specific number of your license. So you put this mark as it is. Don't change the color into green, blue, black, pink. You can't change it as it is, and put your number here and put your number here. What are the key features applicable to product notified by the central government, such as mobiles that we've already seen, power adapters? Now, when should the license be obtained is a very big question in this process. So, since we understand that this standardization starts from the process when the manufacturing starts, so automatically the logic flows that this certification has to be obtained prior to the manufacturing process, prior to the import process. This means you cannot make the product and have the certificate. This is what the logic flows. This is what generic आइडियाज ऑल्सो फ्लोज आप सामान बनाने के बाद आप नहीं उसको स्टैंडर्ड कर सकते, इसीलिए आपने पहले करना है. सो हाउ मच टाइम डज दिस टेक लाइसेंस? इफ समबडी आस्क्स मी, सो आई वुड से टिपिकली इट टेक्स for a smaller license, because there are different categories of licenses. So for a CRS something, it will take approximately a month or so for CRS to be obtained, because this involves lab testing. If it is an Indian manufacturer, we're talking about in connection to the Indian manufacturer. When I specifically tell you about the foreign manufacturer, I will tell you about the foreign manufacturer. But in general terms, when I'm talking about the Indian manufacturers. because for foreign manufacturers there are multiple rules which applies, and it takes a larger duration of time, and it's a little more complicated process than the Indian standard process. CRS is applicable to both Indian and foreign manufacturer, and these products have to bear the standard mark and the registration number, as I mentioned at the beginning of the slide. So we do understand this now. So what are the electronic items I would say that are there? I've already given you a brief, but I would just read out some of the things which I've missed, like watches I missed. Um Watches, lamps, LED modules, power adapters, USB, C type cables, television sets, speakers, earbuds, microwaves, ovens, printers, scanners. This. Now we move to. Now I will tell you in this. I will tell you about the Indian manufacturing process. I told you it takes about a month or so for the license to obtain. So now, similarly, if you have a foreign manufacturer, because the lab testings are done and the processes are also overviewed by the department, so we automatically understand that when it comes to foreign manufacturer, we all are thinking that something would happen. How would it take place? How would the department ensure that it is happening? So the department, so the government has really thought about the process, that how should it we make it friendly to the manufacturer also, and how to implement it. So one thing is for sure, that we have to see the manufacturing process too, and the testing has to be done. So when a foreign manufacturers apply, so he has to have somebody in India as an authorized Indian representative. That's the first primary requirement of a foreign manufacturer to be able to sell his products in India. So that even after the certificate is being given to the foreign manufacturer, we have somebody responsible in India if the products are found substandard to be caught by the department. Maybe that person is sitting in Italy, Dubai, Australia, USA, but that person will have somebody living as a representative in India, like we have in, RBI licensing office or a branch office or something like this. But here it is an individual or an Indian representative or a firm, something like that can happen. So the foreign manufacturer has to have an AIR, authorized Indian representative, and then the process starts through the AIR. So for Indian government, the AIR is the person to be caught in at the time of non-compliances. So the factory visit happens in foreign. The people from India goes to foreign. They do the factory visit. They get the samples. They get it tested, and all that process happens. So this whole process of FMCS takes about something close to a 6 months kind of a time period happens. If things are faster, it comes to 3. Then if things are slower, it comes to 6. If things are a little more slower, then it comes to 9. But a comfortable period would we say would be 6 months, because the departments also have to take out the time from the schedule to visit. The visit takes a lot of time, and then the standardization and all the manufacturing process and something else. So what are the products? The products are same. What are products are there in the Indian manufacturing? The same are for foreign manufacturing. The products remain similar. Only the process of obtaining the license changes. Now we come to hallmark. Hallmark, we've seen this. See, I try to put a picture also for you guys so that you can see how does the hallmark on a jewelry looks like. This defines the purity, fitness of the material, and basically on gold and silver, and help us maintain the compliance. What are the products? It's on all kind of jewelry wear products ranging from rings to idols to metals to pendants to decoratives to everything. Now the certificate of conformity, I will tell you, I had already informed you that this is on notified by the central government on a larger processes, large, more complex kind of a processes. They're applicable to products specifically notified by BIS regulatory framework, certify conformity with the applicable laws as across all the laws. It involves technical documentation testing and other pre-verifications process. And it is also for both Indian and foreign, subject to applicable conditions, because this is to for foreign. Why it is coming foreign here? Because it is for larger private organizations also. Basic surveillance and compliance is monitored by BS even for a smaller license and for the larger license. Products are notified machines, equipments, assembly products, components, and these are through government scheme notifications. Kind of a framework happens here. Now we come to Schemex. Schemex, I will give you an example for Schemex for a product, and then I will run you through the slide. So we have these bottles for filling the. We have these machines for filling up the cough syrups or these kind of bottles, which we get airtight for the medicines. So we have a machine, and that machine's looks very nice, and that it keeps, filling. You keep putting the bottles, and it keeps filling, and this. But the problem which the government identified and wanted to, standardize it is because most of the time these machines work well because they are highly calibered and tested and this. But few of the times, because these machines are being used for goods like medicines, as an example, so there cannot be a chance of error then in, because when you make that bottle, so something comes from A packet, then something comes from B packet, something comes from C packet, something comes from D packet. They all collaborate one where, and then the medicine is poured into, as a generic view I'm giving you, and then it gets poured into that bottle. So the calibration, the testing, the accuracy, the fineness, and the years of usage, the wear and tear, everything plays a very big role because of the quality has to be maintained. That is why the larger machines are also being covered here, because they were consumed by the Indian consumer and they were highly sensitive products. So they're applicable to products specified by the central government, primarily intended for safety, reliability, strategic importance, necessitates the higher level of conformity assessment. This is what I was explaining you the point to, that safety, reliability, and statistic importance. In a bottle of a cough syrup, you cannot mismeasure and put it. Similarly, for paints, for chemicals, for general use acids, you cannot miss even a fraction of the product, a fraction of a quantity, and circulated in the market. That is why these machines through which they were made were being implemented by this. So this also is general. The general thing across all the standards are that they'll be tested, factory assessment will happen, and quality control will go over. Generally for domestic also and foreign also, and this is for surveillance and ongoing compliances. Voltage, what kind of products are covered? The products are covered are voltage, switch gears, circuit breakers. Circuit breakers are a very big example. What are the circuit breakers? I will give you an example. The electricity which flows into our houses fluctuates. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. So in our houses, it is regulated and it goes up and down. But in the grids, power grids and all, when it goes beyond a mark, then the circuit breakers break the circuit and stop the electricity. So these kind of things which are crucial for public at large are being covered under BIS. So now by and large we have almost covered all the types of licenses. We have seen the generic from the more cumbersome kind of licenses which are there. But now what are the steps through which it is happening? Steps are similar to any other application process. We identify the standard, we make the consumer, we make the manufacturer or the importer aware of the standards and make him help implement those standards. Product testing, that these testings are done in BIS approved labs. You cannot self test the product. These has to have happen in the BIS certified labs. It can be a private lab or a government lab. Applicable application to the BIS, you make the application to the BIS. Wherever there is a factory assessment applicable, like CRS, there is no factory assessment, only the lab testing happens, then you make the application. But wherever the manufacturing process is there, the factory assessment happens. The officer visits the factory, they see the license, everything is in place. They see the whole manufacturing units, the process, the input, the output, are they applying with the standards, and then in the end, they grant the license. Once the license is granted, there are returns which has to be filed. There are quarterly returns and yearly returns. And then there are periodic surveillance from the department's end on a half yearly basis and yearly basis. So we do understand that once we get the license, then on a regular basis we have to, keep complying with the license. If anybody has any questions, then we can take some questions till this section, or if you want, we can take the section questions in the end also.
As such, I can't see any questions as of now.
Okay. Obligations of manufacturer and importer. This plays a very important role because we as professionals can only make the manufacturers and importer aware that you have to obtain it. But manufacturers and importer themselves also have to be conscious. So what are the first thing is that the non-compliance, we have to tell each and every client that non-compliance of this law can result in seizure of products. This means आप मैन्युफैक्चर कर भी लो, बना भी लो, आपने मार्केट में डाल भी दिया, तो भी BIS आपका प्रोडक्ट उठा के सीज कर सकता है, प्रोडक्ट सीज कर देगा, फैक्ट्री सीज कर देगा, सब कुछ सीज कर देगा. सो ये तो एडवाइज ही नहीं है कि आप अगर जो भी कोई भी स्टैंडर्ड नोटिफाइड आप उसकी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग लगा दो और बिक दो. ये तो कुछ मतलब ये this is going to be a loss situation for the manufacturer. So we have to tell them that what are the non-compliances will result into. Then there are penal provisions also, prosecutions also, all those kind of things are also there. सिर्फ सामान ही नहीं ले लेंगे, आपकी जो एंटिटी है जिसके थ्रू आप ये सब कर रहे थे उसके ऊपर भी penal provisions लगेंगे और prosecutions भी हो सकती हैं आपके ऊपर. और कोई ऐसा गुड हो जिसके कंजम्पशन की वजह से कोई कंज्यूमर को हार्म हुआ तो उसका भी भुगतान फिर आपको ही करना पड़ता है. सो this has rippling effect on the manufacturers and the importers. So what does the manufacturer importers have to keep in mind? Manufacturers importers have to notify of the notified products. This means that some of the standards are voluntary and some of the standards are notified. The standards which are voluntary, very good. If somebody is doing it, very nice. But standards which are notified, and for that products, the manufacturer and the importer has to obtain the BIS license or the registration before placing the product in the market and before manufacturing. Ensuring compliances not only at the time of obtaining the license, throughout the cycle of this product and throughout the manufacturing product process and throughout the life of the company, they have to abide by the standards. It is not that they can reduce the standard at any given point of time. Use the BIS mark on each and every product. Maintain records and facilitate inspection. You cannot at any given point of time say that I do not have the records. I do not know where this is coming from. I do not know. You, as a factory owner or an importer, have to have the required disclosures in place. Then you have to comply with the quality control orders, report changes. If there are any changes, like any other law, if there are any changes in your registered office, in your process, in your factory, in your importing, if you're importing some product and you were importing earlier from XYZ and now you're importing from somebody else, any major changes in the cycle are there, then you have to, at the given point, you have to intimate it to the BIS department in the appropriate manner. Now we come to enforcement and penalties. Market surveillance and inspection. BIS regularly conduct inspections, product sampling, and factory audit to verify ongoing compliances are in place or not. This I've already told you कि फैक्ट्री मार्केट में अगर आपका प्रोडक्ट है तो भी उसके ऊपर भी सर्वेलेंस होता है, सर्च होती है, सीजर होता है ऑफ द नॉन कंप्लाइड प्रोडक्ट. आपको अभी तो मना कर दिया गया और फ्यूचर में भी मना कर दिया जाएगा इफ यू सेल दीज अंडर स्टैंडर्ड प्रोडक्ट्स. Product covered under QOC cannot be manufactured, imported, or sold or distributed without the prescribed BIS certification. Misuse can attract fines and prosecutions. And manufacturers and importers may be directed to withdraw non-compliance product from the market and take corrective measures. Callbacks भी आपको impose किए जा सकते हैं, because अगर आपने एक बार product market में डाल दिया and it has gone to the different, so the cost of calling back also falls on the manufacturer, and the corrective measures also falls on this. So this will have you incur double the cost of what you were thinking. So all the profits will, as it is, go in this. So we do understand that we're talking about compliances, that it should happen here and it should happen this way. This is going to benefit the consumer at large. But we do understand that there are, because Indian economy is such a dynamic economy and it changes at a very fast pace. So we really have to understand what are the challenges, and we as professionals have to cater to those challenges so that the department and the manufacturer and the consumer, all three, are in sync and in harmony, and it's a win-win situation for all three of them. We understand the dynamic regulatory landscape, so we should continuously keep updating the department also, so that if you implemented this, it's going to happen like this. These are the challenges. Identify the products and the issues, which are there. Are multiple times, the standards are being given, but the Indian manufacturer not having that right kind of raw material to produce that thing, or even if the raw material is available or is there, then that grade or that quality or that price is not there. So these kind of advisories also we can give to the department and seek some relaxations if our if our client is facing any this kind of issues. Laboratories, I've told you that the labs were facing a lot of issues because there were very less labs. There was so much of pressure on these labs, and these labs takes multiple times because they are governed by the BIS, so they have to, the softwares, it sometimes crashes, their internal audits are happening. So there are multiple factors which impact the duration of the obtaining of the license also comes in, because the BIS, as it is, it inspects the labs also. सरप्राइज विजिट हो जाता है, सरप्राइज ऑडिट हो जाता है लैब्स पे, तो वो 4-5 दिन के लिए वो लैब्स भी क्लोज हो जाती हैं। तो आपने आज प्रोडक्ट दिया था, 5 दिन बाद साइकिल शुरू होता है, वो थोड़ा सा कभी कभी सारे प्रोसेस में कभी कभी डिले हो जाता है। कभी कभी जो ओवरसीज मैन्युफैक्चरर होते हैं, जो ऑथराइज रिप्रेजेंटेटिव होता है, उसके थ्रू उनका कोऑर्डिनेशन ठीक नहीं हो पाता है। समटाइम दे फेस प्रॉब्लम, समटाइम these kind of things happens. Maintaining certification requirement and continuous quality control is also an issue at a lot of time. Record keeping, because it becomes a cumbersome process for the manufacturer, and it's a record keeping and timely renewal of licenses, and all this has to be kept in mind. So these are some of the practical challenges with the BIS compliances are having, and then there are many more which can be addressed, and the department welcome these kind of concerns and give you an appropriate resolution, because this is relatively a newer department, so they are open to changes and your suggestions. So we've almost come to a conclusion of our seminar webinar. So what are the key takeaways, that I just want to do a thorough, a brief count check of the points that we've done. The key takeaways of the webinar is BIS is a statutory body ensuring quality, safety, and standardization of products in India. QOCs are a legal trigger making BIS certification mandatory for notified products. Different certification schemes apply based on product category and regulatory requirements. BIS compliance is a continuous obligation and not a one-time approval. Non-compliance may result into penalties, product restrictions, enforcement actions. कहाँ से हम शुरू होते हैं? क्वालिटी सेफ्टी से आते हैं, और हम लोग इन्फोर्समेंट और रिस्ट्रिक्शंस और पेनल्टीज पे इस डिस्कशन को एट द एंड हम करते हैं। अब कंक्लूजन क्या है हमारा? What is the conclusion that we are looking at? The BIS regulatory framework forms a critical part of Indian product and compliance ecosystem, ensuring consumer safety and fair market practice. For business effective, compliance requires early identification of applicable quality control orders and Indian standards. जितना जल्दी वो आइडेंटिफाई कर लेंगे कि मेरे प्रोडक्ट पर ये लगता है और मुझे ये करना है, उतना बेटर उनके लिए प्रोसेस और उसका आगे का सारा काम हो जाता है, बिकॉज वो जो अपनी डिजाइनिंग करते हैं, जो अपनी प्रोजेक्शंस करते हैं, वो इस बेसिस पे हम वो लोग कर सकते हैं. सो इफ टू मेक द मैन्युफैक्चरर्स एंड द क्लाइंट्स अवेयर कि सर आप पे ये लगता है, मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम दे आर नॉट अवेयर बिकॉज ये रिलेटिवली न्यूअर लॉज हैं. So on these, the larger players are, of course, they have everything in place. They are understanding. They have systems in place. They know. But the smaller MSMEs, the startups, these kind of entities really need handholding from people like us to tell them कि सर ये स्टैंडर्ड आपके ऊपर लगते हैं, आप प्लीज इसको देखिए और इसको अवॉइड करें. Selection of appropriate BIS certificate scheme based on the product. आप प्रोडक्ट आता है, आपको आप कैटेगराइज नहीं कर पाते हो कि ये कौन से कैटेगरी में होता है, तो आपको कैटेगराइजेशन करना पता चलना चाहिए. टाइमली आपने उसका टेस्टिंग कराना चाहिए, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन करना चाहिए, लाइसेंस रिक्वायर करना चाहिए. अगर आप कोई प्लांट लगाना चाहते हो और प्लांट का आप प्रोडक्शन शुरू करना चाहते हो XYZ टाइम पे, तो आपको टेंटेटिव आइडिया होना चाहिए कि आपको लाइसेंस ऑब्टेन करने में कितना टाइम लगेगा. टेंटेटिव आइडिया होना चाहिए रॉ मटेरियल ऑब्टेन करने में कितना टाइम लगेगा. तो वो पूरा फ्लो चार्ट विद अलायंस विद आपको क्लाइंट आपको बनाना पड़ता है. उनके लिए उनकी इतनी हैंड होल्डिंग करनी पड़ती है आपको, तभी वो जाके उसको सक्सेसफुली कर पाते हैं. And continuous surveillance and everything has to be in place, which we as a professionals have to make sure that it happens. A structured compliance strategy help ensure legal conformity, smooth market access, and reduce regulatory risk in India. This is in the end what I want to tell you, that a structured compliance strategy can reduce the compliance cost for the client, ensure legal conformity and smoother market access, and reduce regulatory risk in India. Risk भी आपका regulate हो जाएगा, लीगल बेंचमार्क्स भी आपके मीट हो जाएंगे, आपकी जो स्ट्रैटेजी है वो भी मीट हो जाएगी, ओनली if you make the path easier for the client and make them understand at the very beginning, okay, sir, this is how it will happen, or madam, this is how it will happen. So now this is all from me for BIS. I will give you a very small introduction about my organization. We are iCargos. We are a one-stop solution for cross-border logistic compliance and regulatory consultancy, helping importer-exporters navigate through the requirement with confidence and ease. We simplify the process from end to end. So we deal in BIS, CDSO, LMPC, EPR, AO, BGFT, MOEF, ESCOMET. These all import-export licenses we do deal in. And we expertise in electronics, footwear, and toys. We also deal with custom-related cases, and we tailor-make the solutions for our customers. And this is all. The last slide is all about a brief introduction about myself, or a takeaway for you guys. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever suits the people. And now I think the floor is open to questions. I would love to address all and every questions of you during this webinar and after this webinar, and even through Abhinav sir, whatever you want to.
It was a amazing insight, Manjuji. To be very honest, BIS is one of the complicated topic as on date, because day by day the government authorities are making BIS applicable on many of the products, right? And sooner or later we are expecting a lot of standardization will be happening. So, as a compliance officer, as a company secretary in practice, or as a corporate governance professionals, we need to be at least have a brief insight about this BIS. So I believe it was a wonderful session that we got that basic and in-depth understanding about the BIS and the schemes which is there. So I request participants, so if there's any query, the floor is open. We can have that discussion. If anyone want to unmute and speak, definitely they can.
So there are the questions in the chat box.
Yeah,
Should I
please,
start
Ritika,
with
please
them?
take up. Yeah, please.
Okay. So there's one question. Is there any time period for which the license is being granted?
Usually the license are granted for 2 to 3 years, but it depends upon licenses to licenses. But the generic time period is this.
The general time period is 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
All right. So there's another question. Can you please brief about the process of obtaining ISO certifications and its legal framework?
See, ISO certificates are obtained through two processes. One is for domestic manufacturers and one is for foreign manufacturers. When the foreign manufacturer manufactures, so it comes under import. So for Indian manufacturers, you prepare the papers, get the testing of your product done, make the application, get your factory verified or the audit happens. And after the audit is successfully completed, and in audits also a lot of the time it happens, that they suggest, that A was not correct, B was not correct, something was not in place. So something like a generic audit happens, and then the license is granted. Whereas in foreign case, the foreign manufacturer has to appoint an Indian authorized representative. Once that Indian authorized representative is there, so the application is made through the Indian representative by the foreign manufacturer to the BIS department. and then the whole process follows. You make the application, you get the testing done, you get the visit done in the foreign, wherever the factory is located, and then it happens.
Okay. So there's one question from Harshit. I think FSI regulates quality, not the standardized quantity of food items for a price. I guess this is in response to the question that he mentioned. Ki, is there any regulation for to regularize for the standard quantity of food items? And आपने बोला था कि उसके लिए FSI है, not this BIS. तो
Quantity or quality?
स्टैंडर्ड क्वांटिटी तो फिर उसी के हिसाब से उसने आंसर दिया
स्टैंडर्ड
कि FSI
क्वांटिटी तो
regulates
किसी में
quality.
भी नहीं होती है। स्टैंडर्ड क्वांटिटी तो आपके ऊपर ही डिफाइंड होती है।
हम्म।
ये तो कोई लॉ गवर्न नहीं करता है।
अच्छा, तो इसके लिए BIS भी नहीं है, ओनली द फूड रिलेट्स ओनली लाइक फसई।
क्वांटिटी तो ये हो गया ना कि मुझे 4 बेचनी है, 5 बेचनी है, डब्बे में कितनी बेचनी है, वो तो मेरे डब्बे पे डिपेंड करेगा। मैं कितना बेच रहा हूँ। क्वांटिटी कैन नॉट बी गवर्न बाय द एनी रेगुलेटरी। Only the standards or the disclosures can be governed by the regulatory authorities.
Okay. So next is, can you give some overview of CDSCO? This question.
CDSU, I think Abhinav sir would be a best person. I think you should reach out to Abhinav sir and get your queries resolved.
Definitely, definitely. Very soon we are coming with another webinar on CDSCO because I know this is again one of the very upcoming area. And post-COVID, a lot of pharmaceutical companies have started manufacturing a lot of devices in India, even exporting and importing. And all these medical devices are regulated from Drug and Cosmetic Act, and we have Medical Device Rule 2017 in place. And yes, CDSCO is one of the regulatory authority. So yes, we'll be very soon coming up with that webinar also. So it's not a small topic; it's an extensive topic again. So I believe
Yes,
we'll cover that part in that webinar itself. Like for BIS, Manjuji, I have one question. As
yes.
most of the time we are importing a lot of, matlab, industry is importing a lot of products from China, right? Because as we understand, the price difference is there in China, and then
Yes.
this products are available
It's a more
in China.
competitive market than, yes, than the rest of the
Yes.
world. Yes.
Then while this inspection and all happens, so if I believe the regular officer used to travel to plant of that product in foreign countries also and do the inspection there.
Yes, if you look at the current scenario, they have been visiting all the countries except China.
Okay. So keeping apart China, the other countries they are traveling, right? So the
Yes.
cost of their travel and everything is
It is
beared by
borne
the
by the,
applicant or by the government
no, no, no. It is borne by the applicant.
applicant, right? So nearly what will be the approx cost if I include everything, government and like professional charges, and so what is the approx cost which I believe as on date the industry is bearing to get their product registered under BIS?
For Indian manufacturer or for foreign manufacturer?
Either way, for both, for Indian and foreign both, so that it can
So
give
the
us a fair
costs
bit.
are broken into a lot of different sections. One is the government fees, which is based on per production capacity.
Okay,
Like, how many pairs of shoes you make, how many
okay,
this electronic mouses you make, how many remotes you make. So on each product that you make, you there's a marking fees.
okay,
So the fees again varies from product to product, category to category. So I cannot give you a benchmark for the this.
got it.
And then the lab testing also, sir. The the shoes are tested at a different rate. The toys are tested at a different rate. The electronics are tested at a different rate. The wires are tested at a different rate. The computers are tested at a different rate. So there is no one benchmark for the fees. So how it
Okay,
happens, you give us the product, you tell us what are you manufacturing, and when then the curated quotation is made for individual item.
okay, okay.
That's how it
Got
happens.
it, got it, got it, got it. Fair enough. I believe it's
But
a good
domestic is
opportunity,
cheaper
right?
and
For
foreign is expensive. This I can tell you.
and it's an expensive affair. So there comes the question that how the ease of doing business is working here, right? So I believe, as per my understanding, the government should give a liberalized policy here, and with respect to liberalized fees and all. But that should be surely considered by government at their end, because
Yes, see, MSMEs are
yes,
getting rebates. It is not that the
okay,
MSMEs are not getting the rebate.
okay,
MSMEs, small, medium, as per your scale, you get the fee structure. So the
okay,
government
okay,
is very considerate. It's an inclusive department, sir. The
okay,
department is open to startups, exemptions, and the cost ranging, forgetting about the larger manufacturing because they can afford all that happen. But the smaller manufacturing, the entities which are covered under MSME startups are all getting rebates from the government on the government fees year on year. Uh, the
okay.
fees are, yes, on each
That's good.
government applications.
That's good. That's good. I believe it's the
Yes,
right time for us as a practitioner to enter in this domain. And
it's
yes,
a
as a
very,
company,
it's a very good
also,
practice.
uh, right, it's a good domain that they can, rather than outsourcing it to some XYZ person, we can definitely do it in-house. And we can definitely consult our company secretaries who are definitely in this domain. So yes, a good opportunity, and I believe a good webinar. It has been very insightful. I believe any other question from the participant can be taken up, or we will conclude then. Radhika, have we covered all the questions in the
So
chat
there
box?
is only one question from the lip. I guess
Yeah.
this is also related. So I request you to give an overview on AEO certifications.
If Abhinav sir would allow me, I can give
Yeah,
you.
please, ma'am, please. Yeah.
So AU is advanced authorization, which is given to the importers and exporters. This I can give you a very technical detail also. Dilip sir has asked.
Yes, yes.
So I can give you a very technical answer also, but I would just give you a generic answer here so that everybody who do not know what we are talking about would get a little idea of what we're talking about. So, sir, AU are covered in 4 tiers: T1, T2, T3, and LO. T1, T2, and T3 are for importer exporters, and LO is for freight forwarders and all the service providers. So these are stages 1, 2, and 3. On the first stage, you get certain exemptions. On second stage, you get more exemptions. On the third stage, you get even higher exemptions. So exemptions like the fast track of your if your shipment has come to the port, the time for clearance of an AO would be 2 days, and the time for clearance of a non-AO would be 7 days. The filing of bill of entries, the filing of papers, if there is any dispute, if there is any check, if there is any test, all those kind of things, even if are there for a AO person, AO enabled person who has obtained that certificate would be 2 to 3 days. T1 would be 2 to 3 days, T2 would be 1 day, and T3 would be like the shipment has come and it has just got cleared. So this is the generic difference. Then you get bank guarantees, faceless assessments, and all those kind of things happens.
Thank you, Manju. I was associated with logistics for 35 years,
Oh, so
and
then
I was
then
I
you
was
train.
also responsible for AEO certification. When I saw on the screen that
Yeah.
you undertake the custom litigation also, then I thought of checking with you: are you involved with the AEO certification or not? That was my whole
Yes,
reason
I
of
have
asking
done
this over to you.
approximately 50 AUs till now, all over India, sir. I've done it in Bombay, I've done it in Delhi for a larger scale. I have done one T3 till now. And with your grace, sir, I'm thinking of doing much more in future, sir.
Yeah, I will be in touch for that purpose.
Yes,
For
yes. So
customs
please share your
activities,
number, sir. Please
customs
share your
activities,
number.
I will be in touch.
Yes, yes, yes.
Although I'm a company secretary, but I don't get into the regular practice the way you are into the customs. I am also into the other
I'm
logistics.
doing the cases also. I'm doing custom cases also these days. We're doing the
Very good, very
anti-dumping.
good.
Yes, yes.
Enlightening seminar today. Lot of things got clarified for
Thank
BIS
you.
also.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you for all your appreciation and blessings, sir. Looking
Thank you,
forward to
Abhinav.
same in the future also, sir. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
Abhinav. Appreciate,
We should thank Abhinav for making this, enabling this thing, and uh, Usually I do a talk on company secretary related topics only, and I have been doing customs since last 7 to 8 years, but I've never taken any seminar till now. It is only through Abhinav that I said yes.
Believe it's all together we are doing it, and yes,
Yes.
opportunities is very vast, and we need to really encash it to grow in this domain, and we will do it. I believe as a company secretary, it's a very bright future again.
Yes, all right. So thank you so much, ma'am. I guess I'm very short of words to thank you. And as you
Thank you,
mentioned,
Radhika. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
And
everyone, for joining and bearing with me for such a long
Very
time.
good afternoon. Thank you a lot for a very insightful discussion. I am CMA CS Rama Shankar Singh, Advocate High Court Lucknow, and Advocate on Record Training at Supreme Court of India. It's a really insightful webinar, and I expect if it is possible to share the PPT to all of us so that we can update ourselves in a regular manner. Such webinar will be conducted from time to time with a new points of that. Thanks a lot.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your blessing, sir. Definitely, we'll be sharing it.
so thank you so much, ma'am. And जैसे कि आपने बोला कि like India is becoming from underdeveloped to developing nation, so it's the need of the hour कि हमें सब कुछ certification standardization is very required, like you mentioned, from the small thing like pressure cooker to the huge machines, so that customers must be aware ताकि वो अपना standardized products use करे या फिर non standardized products. So it's very need of the hour, I guess. So thank you so much for your valuable guidance. And as a token of appreciation, I would like to present you a certificate. Just give me a moment, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this is on
Anju
behalf
ma'am,
of the
this is
qualified.
a small token of appreciation from our side, right?
Very
So we'll be
nice.
sending it physically also, and looking forward
No, no,
for
I'll
your
print it out. You send me this. I'll print it out in
no,
the
no,
office.
we will be printing it, sending it, right?
Oh,
And looking forward to your again valuable insight in future also in some other insightful topic. Might be AEO certification itself, or could be any other certifications in which we can do it in future.
yes, yes. I would love to take, any, because I've been doing it day in and day out, but I've not been taking seminars on this because, I was thinking that, maybe, our consumes a lot of time and energy that ways, but I'm really happy to be doing this, and I would often want to do it with you. Thank you so much, Abhinav. I'm very short of words and gratitude. Thank
Pleasure
you,
is all mine, ma'am.
Abhinav.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining. And yes, stay connected. We'll be very soon coming up with different topics on weekly and bi-weekly basis, right? And let's keep on growing. Let's keep on learning, and let's take this baton forward. Thank you.
Thank, thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone. Thank you.